Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And folks, we got a very controversial show here today for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ. So let's get into today's topic. Skip Bayless is making headlines today, and for all the wrong reasons. As you guys know, about 2 years ago, there was a moment that took place during an NFL game where Damar Hamlin essentially left us on the football field and then came back. It was a very, very scary moment. The entire sports world stood still while that occurred on the football field. But Skip Bayless at the time decided to jump out of the window and make some of the most ill-advised, wrong-headed comments one could ever imagine in that moment. And he did. The comments were so jarring that I think it led to his former co-host Shannon Sharp deciding to take the day off. I don't think he could stand being around Skip the next day. They come back the next day. They have their back and forth on television, which we all remember. They had their shouting match. Then, to make matters worse, Skip doubled down on it. Right? Instead of saying, hey, look, I took this too far, he doubled down on it. We all know what happened after that. So yesterday, a tragic event took place in the NBA Finals in the first quarter. And funny enough, I didn't even catch that part of the game. I was late tuning into the game. But apparently, Tyrese Halliburton suffered an Achilles rupture in the first quarter. When I saw the highlights, the replay of it, and he bent and his entire leg just went like this, it was a wrap. And it brought back some pretty unfortunate memories for me, because I remember when that happened to Kobe, like 2 or 3 games left in the season that year in 2013. And the minute Halliburton went down, he knew. That's why he was saying, no, he knew. And he was in total agony and despair. It was such a sad moment that other NBA players started sending in their prayers for him. People tweeting about it, people losing, everybody commented on it. And I really believe it took a lot of air out of the NBA Finals Game 7. So while everyone is mourning, Skip Bayless then decides once again to do the unthinkable and say one of the most egregious things one could even imagine in a moment of desperation like that. And when I read his comments, I said, I just can't believe that Skip did this again. But before we even get into what Skip had to say, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports with over 10 million members. PrizePicks makes it easy to get real money action on the sports and players you love. You pick more or less on at least 2 for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. For example, this week on PrizePicks, I'm looking at the upcoming NBA schedule and selecting Stephen Curry for more than 29 points and Kevin Durant for more than 27 points and Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds and Luka Doncic for more than 8 assists. If you're like me and you like to play it safe, you'll love PrizePicks' new feature, Flex Plays. It's the safest way to play. You can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. Plus, you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. On top of this, PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quick as in 15 minutes. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So I actually saw this via an article on Awful Announcing. It says, Skip Bayless unsurprisingly had the worst post ever about Tyrese Halliburton. Let me read you the post that he put on Twitter. It has 4.7 million views. It says, the Pacers brilliantly took the big game pressure off Halliburton. Look at the date, June 23rd, so it's yesterday. Who routinely no-shows. by planting the injury excuse that the media swallowed whole. He said that at 1:19 a.m. Now, I don't know what time that was, where it was, but I don't know where he said that. And people started shredding him in the comments. Is this the worst basketball tweet of all time? And it just kept on getting on worse and worse and worse. Now, some people are saying that he tweeted this about 3 or 4 minutes before the injury. But the fact of the matter is this. Skip was questioning the integrity of this guy in terms of whether or not he was injured. And then when you put tweets like that out there, and the guy suffers in a ruptured Achilles tear in an NBA Finals game, what do you think should be the next course of action? What would you think? Okay, let's say you put this tweet out, 4 or 5 minutes later, that occurs, and you now realize that, oops, I stepped in it. What would you do? What would be the next thing to do? There are 2 things you could do. 1, delete the tweet. Or 2, put out a tweet saying, man, I'm sorry about this. What does Skip do? Not only does he not delete the tweet, he goes on to start talking about some other stuff, about some other nonsense that nobody cares about. And this is the problem. This is the problem. During that moment when him and Shannon had that moment, and Skip knew, he should have pulled it back on TV. But instead, he decided to double down. Now, he went on and put out a few other tweets like, okay, now Halliburton looks, now he looks hurt. Hope is not too bad. Unfortunately, that Halliburton injury looked more than a calf. You think? You think? And I just feel like Skip has a history of doing this, man. I just think Skip has a history of doing this. My thing is just take down the tweets, man. Just take down the tweets, but Skip won't do it. And this isn't the first time. If this was the first time, people could be like, man, Charles, you're blowing this out of proportion, man. You're taking this a little bit too far. Is this the first time? Let me read what the article said. It says, Skip Bayless has had a fair share of horrible takes throughout the years as a sports media provocateur. But his post about Tyrese Halliburton during Game 7 of the 2025 NBA Finals was one for the cold take history books. During the first quarter, Halliburton got off to a great start, scoring a quick 9 points as the Thunder and Pacers were tied 16-16. Given he had been dealing with a serious calf strain that has limited him at times during the series, we were potentially looking at one of an all-time great NBA Finals performances. But then the worst case scenario happened, and Tyrese Halliburton went down with a non-contact injury, which was eerily reminiscent of some of the major Achilles tears that we have seen from NBA superstars, most recently Jason Tatum earlier this postseason. But back to Bayless. With Halliburton lighting it up from downtown, Bayless fired off a ridiculous take on X that the Pacers fabricated the injury news to take the pressure off of their star point guard, and the media was gullible enough to fall for it. First, that's an insane conspiracy to suggest that the team would fake injury news for one of its most important players during the NBA Finals. Second, it's offensive to any athlete who has ever played through injury and risked further harm to their bodies. But it was also the timing of the social media post. Just a mere 5 minutes later, Halliburton went down on what looked like a devastating injury that could knock him out for a long time. Sheepishly, Bayless took to X to say that now Halliburton looks hurt before offering some contrition later in the evening. He then writes, even as a Thunder fan, the last thing I wanted to see was Halliburton get hurt. The last. As many former athletes posted on social media after the Halliburton injury, one of the possible risks of playing through a calf strain is the threat that it poses more of a serious injury to the Achilles. And although it hasn't been confirmed, it appears to be exactly what happened to Halliburton. It's far from the first time that Skip Bayless has fired off questionable social media posts by calling this merely a cold take doesn't do justice to just how insensitive it was. And then the article continues on. That's Skip Bayless for y'all in a nutshell, folks. I'm going to leave it to y'all in the comment section and make of it what you will. These are my thoughts. We catch you guys on the next show. Peace.